I remember the day my daughter, Emily, went missing. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, and we were at the park. One moment, she was laughing on the swings, and the next gone. We searched for weeks, plastering the town with missing posters, but the police found nothing. My wife, Sarah, fell into deep depression, and I was barely holding on myself. Then, one night almost 6 months later, the phone rang. "We found her," the officer on the line said. My heart nearly stopped. An hour later, I stood outside the station. A little girl sat in the waiting area, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She looked just like Emily. Same golden curls. Same big blue eyes. But something felt off. When she saw me, she smiled. "Daddy." Tears streamed down my face as I knelt, hugging her. Sarah sobbed as she embraced her, whispering, "My baby, my baby." That night, Emily was quiet. She sat on her bed, staring at the wall. I told myself she was just traumatized. She had been gone for 6 months, after all. Then the strange things started happening. On the first night, I woke up to whispers. At first, I thought it was Sarah talking in her sleep. But the voice was smaller, softer. It was coming from Emily's room. I crept to her door. She was sitting on the floor, her back to me, whispering to her stuffed rabbit. "Emily," I called. She stopped. Slowly, she turned her head too slowly. Almost unnaturally. "Yes, Daddy." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Who are you talking to?" She smiled. "Mr. Fuzzy." I swallowed hard. "Come back to bed, sweetheart." She climbed under the covers, but as I turned off the light, she whispered, "Good night, Daddy." And then, just before I closed the door, she added, "I missed you so much." Her voice was different that time. Too deep. Too old. I barely slept. The next day, Sarah acted like nothing was wrong. She kept saying how lucky we were to have Emily back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then, I checked the photos. I dug through our old albums, comparing pictures from before she went missing to now. The Emily in those photos had a tiny birthmark on her wrist. This Emily didn't. My stomach dropped. I stared at her as she sat on the floor, drawing with crayons. My hands shook. That wasn't my daughter. That night, I locked myself in my office and searched online for cases like this. Children who went missing and came back, different. I found something. A case from a town 3 states over. A boy disappeared in 1998. He returned 6 months later, just like Emily. His parents swore he was the same, but he wasn't. He didn't blink often. He didn't sleep. And then, one night, they found him standing over their bed, watching them. The mother didn't survive the night. The father was never found. I slammed the laptop shut. My breath came in short gasps. That night, I pretended to sleep. At exactly 3:13 a.m., I felt a presence in our room. I didn't move. Then, a whisper. right by my ear. Daddy. Cold breath brushed against my skin. I forced myself to stay still. I know you know. I clenched my fists under the covers. Don't worry. Mommy doesn't know. She loves me. But you. A small giggle. You should run. And then, the sound of tiny feet padding out of the room. I sat up, drenched in sweat. I had to act. I had to do something. But how do you tell your wife that the little girl she's tucking into bed isn't your daughter? The next morning, I told Sarah everything. She didn't believe me. She's been through trauma. She snapped. She needs love, not paranoia. That night, I made a decision. I packed a bag. I needed to leave. Call for help. Find a priest. Anything. But as I reached for the doorknob, I heard her voice. Going somewhere, Daddy. She stood in the hallway, her stuffed rabbit dangling from her hand. Her eyes no longer blue, but deep, endless black locked onto mine. She smiled. And then, the lights went out. I never made it out.